All right. Welcome, everybody, to our weekly First Gen Entrepreneurs live event where we talk about strategy that helps first gen entrepreneurs in their efforts to grow their business. This week, I have as my guest Tara LaFon Gooch. Tara, how are you today?
Hey, so good, Andrew. Thank you so much for having me today. It's my pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for being on. So, just to give a little context, we've got some new visitors that are attending today. So, my name's Andrew McIntosh. I'm the founder of the upcoming First Gen Entrepreneurs podcast and community. It's the only place where you'll be able to go for practical advice for the brave or crazy souls who were the first ones in their family to start a business. So, the platform is there for that. And what I do is each week I have a guest such as Tara on the show where we're going to go over specific things that are of benefit to first gen entrepreneurs that you can implement in your business, in your career, and so forth. Now, what Tara does, she helps executive teams around the world to develop personal brands on LinkedIn with the goal of gaining reach, increasing exposure, and leading ultimately to profitable growth. And that's using systems and proven strategies so that she can get you results in a short period of time versus trying to figure it out yourself. Is that a fair way to put it there, Tara?
That's pretty relevant. Absolutely. So, again, it's about getting the maximum results in the shortest amount of time. I think that appeals to just about everyone. But it's so relevant in business, right? So, if we think about a business, what are your goals? Well, your goals are to expand, right? To become profitable, but also have repeatable systems in place that lead to that continual scalability and growth and ultimately the long-term success of your business.
Yeah.
So, one of the ways you can do that is with social media. These, are free networking platforms that honestly give you that reach, give you that visibility that you wouldn't necessarily have, especially as a small business. Don't you think, Andrew?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's interesting because on the personal side of things, I've been kind of anti social media for years and years. But then on the business side of things, it's like, wow, you can just with a little bit of time, a little bit of effort, you can really get your business name, your reputation, kind of out there to the world, and it gets you in front of a lot of people that you probably wouldn't meet otherwise.
I know. And just this week, so it was 8 days ago today, I decided, okay, I've really got to grow my Facebook platform, right? So I
Hmm.
can't just be relying on LinkedIn. I've got almost 30,000 connections on LinkedIn right now, but I knew that I needed just at least one or two more things, right? Again, it's about building that reach over time. So I decided 8 days ago, I'm going to go ahead and build up my Facebook. In 8 days, I've grown 3,200 connections and have gotten clients from it. So, again, anything can happen in a very short amount of time. And really, the grass grows where you water it. So, it's really important as entrepreneurs to put yourself out there. Don't be reliant on one platform, but my advice is make LinkedIn your make this your main one. I think a lot of people
Mhm.
focus on Instagram and Facebook or even Twitter more, but LinkedIn is really where the decision makers are, right? So, LinkedIn is where you find your business partners, your investors, potential clients. It's also where people make more higher salaries as well. So, and people are here with business in mind. So when you put yourself out there and, develop this personal brand, it again keeps you at that top of mind awareness with your audience, which is so important as an
Mhm.
entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Um, but it's important for everyone. And, the title of this talk is Personal Branding Reduces Risk. So, what does that actually mean? I want to talk about that a little bit too.
Yeah,
So,
and if you don't mind me interrupting just briefly, I was thinking along the same lines, like, there's a lot of people on LinkedIn that talk about personal branding.
yeah,
So, that in itself isn't terribly unique, and honestly, I that was my first live event a few weeks ago, so at first, I was a little hesitant to do another one on personal branding in such a short period of time. But then I got to talking to Tara, and this is really a different on that subject, because it's not just about what it can do for you in terms of growing your business, which is where most people go. That's where I go with it. What you're talking about, Tara, is actually reducing risk through personal branding. So I think that's an interesting topic, and I think hopefully we're all curious to hear how that's the case exactly. So hopefully that'll just tee it up for you.
yeah, no, for sure. So, before I went into full-time entrepreneurship which was by the way just this year, that was March 2022 when I decided to take the leap in full-time entrepreneurship. I was a corporate sales director. I was in charge of a 9-state territory. And that's what I was, in my career. I was corporate sales, right? So over the years, I had worked my LinkedIn profile to really develop a lot of meaningful connections on there and start to establish relationships. I didn't really post a ton because honestly, again, you don't think about it, right? When you're involved in that corporate job that's kind of cozy. You don't sometimes think about, oh, maybe I should develop this personal brand because, well, I, kind of comfortable where I am in my career. Well, what if you're not? What if something happens, right? So, we know what was it, Andrew? Just last week, Meta laid off 11,000 employees. 11,000 guys. So, and I looked up some crazy stats today before our talk, and layoffs are happening across sectors, but 67,000 workers in the United States tech sector alone have been laid off in mass job cuts just so far in 2022.
Did you say 67,000?
67,000 in the United
Wow.
States alone, and the year is not over yet. And
Right.
just again last week we had 11,000 with Meta, and it's been a continual problem. I think it's going to happen with Twitter. I just see these trends continuing.
Hmm.
So, personal branding, it reduces the risk. So that in the event of a layoff, let's say tomorrow you lost your job. That's, a bad case scenario.
Hmm.
What if you lost your job and you didn't have a LinkedIn profile or barely a presence, hardly any following, nobody knew you existed? That's scenario A. Or scenario B, you have like an established network that knows you exist, that you put out original content, people support it, like it, and find it trustworthy, and start to look at you as a subject matter expert, a thought leader, right? On
Hmm.
LinkedIn.
Yep.
You have that community of supporters built in. Well, who's set up for success at that point? Is it person A that has to start from scratch and, has to spend this time building up this profile, or is it person B who already has this safety net in place that in the event of a mass layoff or something happening in their career,
Hmm.
they have something to fall back on? They have people in their network that can fall back on them, that can help support them, that could potentially help find them a job. But also, again, it's really your network is your net worth, and that there's a reason why they say that.
Hmm.
When you have a personal brand that allows people to know who you are and find you trustworthy, well, that means more to me if I'm a hiring manager or recruiter than words on a piece of paper.
Right.
You can tell a lot about somebody's character and consistency of their work ethic just by looking at their personal brand on LinkedIn. It really could be the differentiating factor in what sets you up for success versus another applicant for that same position.
Yeah, I think about it. I was talking to someone this morning about how I've been personally active on LinkedIn since about February or March of this year. And I frankly didn't even wasn't familiar with the term personal brand until I had been in it,
Yeah.
for a couple months. But I'm always surprised at just how many people, when I meet them physically for coffee or lunch or whatever, and they're like, "Man, I really love what you're doing on LinkedIn. This post that you had was really insightful," or whatever. And these same people, more often than not, are ones that don't. They never like any of my stuff. They never comment on any of my stuff. They're lurkers, right?
Yeah.
Which, no, nothing negative against them, but my reason for bringing it up is you kind of have people paying attention to who you are and what you're out there saying, whether it's obvious or not, just from your LinkedIn interactions.
Oh man, you just hit on something very powerful right there. Because, all we see when we look at a post and how well it performed are the likes and the comments. And then you see this little snippet under there that says impressions, right? Views.
Hmm.
But you don't know who those are. And let me tell you, there's a lot of power in those views because you don't know what level of decision maker may be looking at these posts. And that person may look at your post and maybe they've never interacted with you before. Maybe they've never liked a post or commented before, but something you said in that post resonated with them to the point where they say, I would love to hire that person, right?
Right.
I
Right.
would love to have that person on my team. You know what? I wanna go into business with that person. It could really be that kind of a snowball effect that happens just from a simple comment or post. And
Yeah.
I talk about the power of commenting a lot. I've gotten amazing business opportunities just because of a comment, folks.
That's
So
wild. Yeah.
possible, yeah. And
Yeah.
it's almost nothing I would even expect, but Um, I had a social Saturday post a couple of weeks ago now, and one of the things that I said was I put my core values out there. So that's part of personal branding, right?
Hmm.
I put my core values out there and I said, you should connect with me because I believe in kindness in all aspects of life and business. That was the first thing.
Hmm.
Well, that's a core value, right? So kindness. Well, who doesn't want to do business with somebody like that?
Right.
So
Right.
they look at it, and again, you don't know who those impressions or viewers are, but the person who saw that post, guess where they work? They work at a company that's a $500 million and asked me to send them a business proposal.
Wow. That's
You
crazy.
never know who's watching, who's
Right.
appreciating. But if I didn't put myself out there and develop this personal brand, I would have never gotten that opportunity.
That's something that's interesting too is there's a few creators on this platform that I follow. Some of them are going to be pretty much household names at this point. Your Justin Welsh's and guys like that.
Yeah.
I'm not really so much focused on them, but there's some guys out there that I follow. I really enjoy their content. I like their personality, which comes through just by watching their videos.
Yeah.
I'm genuinely benefiting from what they're putting out there in the world. And in reality, they're just normal guys, normal folks like you and I.
Yep.
But then every once in a while, you kind of get almost a little starstruck when you actually get to talk to these people, and it like, oh wow, he knows who I am. He's talking to me, right? Well, don't you think that effect would help a person to land a job or get a new business opportunity or somehow improve the way that they're viewed by the world versus someone without that personal brand?
100%. And my analogy is very simple. 100% of your customers are people. 100%. 100% of your potential employees, guess what? They're also people. So, no matter what, business is centered around people, and you can't do anything in business. You can't move the needle forward in business without interacting with people. And if all of your potential customers are people, well, nobody's going to want to buy from a faceless corporation anymore, right? Those days are dead and gone, and thank God they are. People want to buy from other people, again, that they know, like, and trust. And it's about buying from other people, but it's also about you want to give opportunities to other people that you know, like, and trust, which could mean, again, establishing a personal brand that leads to these opportunities, such as jobs, such as promotions. Is your social media presence holding you back from getting that promotion? Is it holding you back from getting your next big opportunity?
Right.
And I've looked at, I would say, millions of profiles, right? That's being conservative. I look at them and study them like a science. And there's so few people that get it right. And the people that do don't have to look. That's the beauty of it. And it's really about fine tuning it, creating a strategy that honestly speaks from your heart, that tells your story about who you are, what you do, and why, but creating it and crafting it as yourself with authenticity and an approach of service and reciprocity to your community. That's what, building a personal brand is. And that's how it can really help, again, reduce the risk, mitigate the risk in your career so that, again, you can achieve success with less hassle, less time, less chasing, less hunting. It's more about attraction than hunting.
So do you find that that attraction and the opportunities that kind of fall in your lap, um, there's that expression that the harder I work, the luckier I get, right? But I could see how personal branding is kind of this intangible thing that might not feel like much is happening at first, but do you find that it starts to snowball over time?
Absolutely. And again, before March of this year, I was in corporate America and I did not feel the need to post a lot, right?
Mhm.
Again, you just kind of get caught in that. And nobody has ever said, I wish I would have developed my personal brand later. I Have you ever said that? Have you ever would said, I wish this LinkedIn live show, I wish I would have started it much later. Why did I start it right now?
Right, right,
I
right.
I wish I would have started a marketing strategy later. I wish I would have written down my goals later. I wish I wouldn't have taken so much action. No, nobody's ever said that, right? So it's about taking action, taking that ownership mentality, because again, tomorrow is not guaranteed. What you have control of is right now at this moment, and even if it's something that, okay, you say today, I'm going to write down exactly what my goals are, what success looks like for me, and define it and get some clarity of vision going.
Mhm.
That is a good first action step that I would say to everybody watching. Get that clarity of vision, understand what success looks like for you, and develop a personal brand that, again, helps mitigate that risk. So, in the event of some inevitability of life occurs in your career, you have something to fall back on. So, so
Yeah.
important.
When I think you alluded to it earlier, but the notion that people do business with people they like, right?
Yes.
So when I think about, take my accountant as an example, there are here in Kentucky where I live, there's plenty of accountants that are perfectly skilled, perfectly capable of doing my taxes. Do you know which one I do business with? It's the one that I like,
Yep.
right? And so to me, the notion of building a personal brand, some people might say, well, what does that even mean? And I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. What it doesn't mean to me is sitting down and saying, okay, how am I going to sell to the world? I'm going to just get on LinkedIn every day and put my sales pitch out there on why my service is better, why you should consider working with me. I think if that's your focus, you've kind of missed the point. Do you think that that's true?
Absolutely. And I feel like that's the success you have in business and in life.
Mhm.
So, it's we a lot of times have this me, myself, and I attitude. It's all about me. It's what I want, right? Well, if you have that attitude, that's definitely not in the spirit of reciprocity that I talked about, at the beginning of our talk. With
Mhm.
LinkedIn, in order to be truly successful, you have to come with that spirit of reciprocity and of adding value. And you can add value with your content. You can also add value by building relationships, by instilling good communication methods with your audience, with your network as well. But, again, nobody wants to do business with somebody that just pitches you all the time. It's not about that. If you haven't offered value and if
Mhm.
you've given nothing in return, nobody is going to want to do business with somebody like that.
Right.
You have to give value and you have to help people. I could, every day I think I get 50 to 100 direct messages. I don't have time to read them all because I wouldn't have time to do my job. But most of them are irrelevant, and it's not really something that I need in my business. So it's like, it wouldn't help me per se.
Mhm.
So you have to have a more targeted approach and it has to be more personalized. But, before you even start to want to sell something to somebody, you have to first add that value to them and why they would want to do business with you.
Right.
You can't give me that reason or else I'm not intrigued, right? It's such a simple thing to think about, but I don't feel like a lot of people really execute well.
So, in your opinion, do you think this is something I struggled with getting started, and still do to an extent? But does a person need to be the world's foremost expert on whatever their area of expertise is before they can justifiably start putting themselves out there on social media like LinkedIn?
If you have that mentality, you're never gonna post anything, folks.
Right.
So good. I'm glad you hit on that because I think we all have imposter syndrome to a certain extent.
Hmm.
It doesn't matter if you're the most educated person in the world, you're gonna think there's somebody else better than you or smarter than you, and maybe there is, maybe there isn't. Who cares? What matters is you write from your heart, from your passion, your experience, from your background. There's something that you know and that you are an expert in. You don't have to be the world's leading foremost expert in anything, but there's something that you have, something in your past or your education or your background, some story that is going to speak volumes for someone else and help that person. When you start to approach your content that way as it's an act of servitude and an act of adding value to your community, again, that's when you start to flip the script and people start coming to you because they will inevitably start to see you as a subject matter expert, even if you're not the world's leading person for that. If you don't put yourself out there, nobody's going to do it for you. So get rid of that imposter syndrome and those limiting beliefs a little bit. Use them as fuel to keep moving forward and just try to just keep chugging along and post content that means something to you that adds value to folks.
Yeah, I agree with that. One of the things that I picked up along the way that I resonated with me is the fact that wherever you are on your journey, number one, no one can question that, right? That's your
Yes.
experience. So there's not there's no diploma, no degree, no certification for your journey. It belongs 100% to you. Secondly, there are other people on a similar journey as you, but maybe a step or two behind you.
Yep.
So the experience that you have to offer, what you've gone through, the ups and the downs, all of that is going to be valuable to someone, right?
Yeah.
And so that's where you don't need to be, again, this authority on a given subject. globally for it to be of value to someone else.
Absolutely. And you know what's really cool too? When you work with somebody that's a couple steps behind you, it actually helps solidify that knowledge in your head even more because you're teaching someone, right? And every time you teach someone, you inherently get better. So it helps sharpen your tool set because that person that you're teaching may have a different perspective and then in turn teach you. So by teaching, by helping someone that's a couple steps behind you,
Hmm.
really is how you improve along the way as well, and then networking with people that are a couple steps ahead of you so that you get an alternate perspective. I think all of that's crucial to really any of our developments here on LinkedIn, and ultimate success is again that collaborative spirit of reciprocity and of giving and of just helping each other get to that next level of success.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. And I think too that another thing that I struggled with, I'd be curious to get your thoughts on, but the idea that for me to put my first post on LinkedIn, for me to do my first video, for me to hold my first event, that everything needs to go perfectly because I'm
Yeah,
putting myself out there to the whole world. I mean, I don't want to make a fool of myself, right?
right.
What's your response to that?
There's no such thing as perfect. Let that go immediately. Yesterday, I had a live stream and it didn't go perfect. There was an echo, but I decided to do it anyway. Why? Because every single time I do it, I learn something from a failure, right? So, again, there's no such thing as perfect. And if you're striving for perfection, then you're never going to launch. You're never going to pull that trigger. So don't focus on the perfection, focus on the message and the intention behind that message, and really who that's hearing that message, who it's going to benefit, and how it can change their life and uplift them, right? Again, start coming at it as you're a thought leader and that you have something to add to help others succeed. People naturally gravitate toward that energy, and that's how you, again, attract those clients and opportunities to you. But get rid of the it's got to be perfect because then you'll just absolutely never launch. And I want to see your content and support it. I want everybody that's listening to this right now to post a video. Do it. Just post it. Take your phone out today. Do it in 3 takes. Don't take any longer than that. Just pick the best out of 3 and post a video. And it's going to suck. And you know what? Maybe you'll get 1 like, maybe you'll get 50, maybe it'll go viral and change your life. You don't know until you put yourself out there, but just try something a little bit uncomfortable. Today is my challenge to everyone watching so that again, because you never know who those views and impressions are of your post and you never know who's watching. It could be just that next opportunity that opens the door for you to succeed.
Very nice. Yeah, I like the way you think. So we've got about 4 minutes left. One of the things, just to kind of round this out, is you and I had talked about 5 ways that a personal brand helps you to, whether it's mitigating risk, reducing risk, but you had 5 specific things. And
Yeah.
again, reframing this idea of personal branding, I think that's the meat of this particular live event. So would you like to summarize those for us?
Sure. So the first thing would be attracting employees, right? So again, to any entrepreneur business owner watching this right now, one of your goals should be to have employees in the future. It's for the growth and ultimate scalability of your business, right? So you attract employees because leaders follow other leaders. So when you show up on LinkedIn as a leader, as again, that subject matter expert, somebody that is consistent, that owns their platform, that shows up with leadership and inspiration in mind, and again, that value driven idea of reciprocity, you're going to attract employees because employees are going to say, I want to work for that person. I want to work for a leader, somebody I believe in, right? Again, someone that I trust. So watch how many recruiting dollars you save just by being a leader yourself. Again, if you want to attract leaders, you have to be one yourself. So super important for entrepreneurs, especially retaining employees, right? So these are some other things we don't think of when we
Hmm.
think about building a personal brand. It's not just about you. Yes, it's a safety net for you in your future, but it's also about the people that you attract in your life as a consequence. So, again, you want to attract good employees, but you also want to retain good employees. One of the best ways you can do that is with social media. Again, if you think about what if it's a big company and you have more than one branch in the United States, let's say,
Hmm.
you're physically not able to reach all of those folks unless you're on a platform like social media and you guys are connected up and you support each other's posts and they see you when you're not in the office as somebody that's a leader, somebody that's a visionary, somebody they look up to and trust. That's how you retain employees and that's how you save recruiting dollars on that and ultimately decrease your employee attrition. You're also attracting clients, customers. So, one of my favorite things that I learned this year by interviewing Brian Covey, he's the VP of Loan Depot, former Olympic athlete. And
Hmm.
he said that when you have a personal brand, it's like starting at midfield. So he gave the analogy of a soccer field, right?
Hmm.
Would you rather start at the end of the field with that client, or would you rather have a midfield advantage and all you have to do is keep moving forward?
Right.
So, when you have a personal brand that customers then know, like, and trust, it's already like you're starting at midfield with them. They already feel like they know you, trust you, and want to do business with you. Then it's just a matter of, again, moving that needle forward with them. Attracting investors. It's absolutely possible here on LinkedIn. Again, the same
Mhm.
principle goes for all of these different areas because, again, 100% of your customers, partners, and investors are people. This is who people want to do business with, are other people. So, again, the best way to attract these investors, anybody like that, is the same way with personal branding. And then business partners as well, lastly. So, great way to get aligned business partners by sharing your core values, what you believe in. Why, right? So when I share my core values of what I believe in and why, guess who's attracted to that? The same people that have the same core values.
Right.
Well, that's who I want to work with. It's easy. It makes it an easy yes or an easy no. So putting your messages out there about, again, what you believe in and why, that's when you start to attract the right audience to you. And, vanity metrics are great, but if they're not making you any money, it's all for naught.
Hmm.
You want to have quality of relationships. And the only way you're really going to do that is by, putting out your personal brand for the world to see so that the right people can get attracted to it.
And something I think is key, just as a final thought for our event today. But of those five things that you mentioned, you might not be in need of any of those five things today,
Yes.
right? But the
Yes.
whole point is if you're out there, people are getting to know you, they're learning about your core values, they're just starting to like you, like your personality. Then at some point when you need that investor or you
Yes.
need that business partner or you're looking for customers, then this whole process is so much easier than if you're now just starting from scratch. And at that point, you're nothing but a cold outreach. Whereas if you've built that personal brand over all these, weeks, months, and years, they know who you are. And this conversation's a whole lot easier now.
That's right. And again, like I said at the beginning of our talk, even if you have a corporate job and you're not owning a business, 67,000 tech workers in the United States alone have been laid off this year.
Yeah.
So let's let that sit in. This is real, folks. So this, can happen. The best thing to do is just be proactive about it and really give it some thoughtful intention as soon as you can.
Nice. Do you want to take an extra minute for a question? I don't know if you can see that. Marilyn left a question at the bottom. Is that something that you feel comfortable taking that
Oh,
question?
yeah, sure. Oh, I've worked with Marilyn. She's great. Hi, Marilyn. It's
Hi,
good to see you
Marilyn.
today. So my personal brand is doing better than ever. My SSI score, so that's a social selling index score. And I showed you that last week, Andrew,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
So it's okay. Don't put a ton of weight into it. Mine kind of fluctuates. Where my score personally fluctuates, Marilyn, is the engaging with insights. And that's commenting. Now, it's not to say I don't engage, right? Or don't have thoughtful insights. It's to say that I've been extremely busy with work and haven't been able to comment as much as I'd like to lately. So that SSI score does fluctuate a little bit. But the point of it is that your personal brand is doing better than ever and that it's working for you and probably for the first time in a long time or ever. And that's the power of it. So as long as you're working on it and as long as you're seeing progress, don't pay attention to the score so much.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'll add to there. Like if you just if you just take that first sentence and delete the rest, then
Yes,
you're good,
you're
right?
good.
My personal brand is doing better than ever. Success, right?
Yes.
Just yeah.
I love it.
Um, it's wild to me that we live in a world where an algorithm, we're all slaves to the algorithm, and
Yes,
that it affects the way we feel about how we're performing in our careers based on these numbers. But
that's right.
keep up the
That's
good work, Marilyn.
yeah, you're doing great, Marilyn. I'm proud of you.
Awesome. Well, Tara, thank you so much for coming on the show. We're a little bit over time. Hopefully, we've got some patience on the viewers here, but really appreciate your perspective on this and how personal branding actually reduces risk. I think, especially you look at all the layoffs that are happening, it's pretty obvious that we're all headed into a recession. I think personal brand is a good idea at this stage. So, Tara, would you like to give a quick shout out to kind of what you're working on if someone is interested in following you or get digging into your offer?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So next week, I've got a bunch going on, but I'll just say this. I've got on Monday through Wednesday next week, so the 21st through the 23rd, I will be hosting a complimentary LinkedIn personal branding workshop. So I'm going to go over a little bit how to optimize your profile for success, your headline, those type of things. And also a little bit in content. So every day is going to have a little bit of a different section and title and type, but it's going to help people get a little bit more successful. Again, this is my gift to my community. It's totally complimentary, free of charge. So I encourage everybody to come, and I will put the event link in the chat.
Awesome. All right. Good deal. Well, thank you again for coming on. To anybody watching, listening, we appreciate the questions, the comments in the chat. It was a good time doing this with you. And we'll see you next week. This is something I do every week now. These live events, they're all catering to first gen entrepreneurs. So if you're the first one in your family to start a business, you're crazy, but we're here to help, right? So we want to give you some good tips each week to help you improve, not just survive, but to thrive. So you can feel free to follow me on LinkedIn, and I'll keep you apprised on the upcoming events. So thanks again, everybody. We hope you have a great rest of your day.
Bye.